Welcome to year 2 of A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.
Hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer
Frank Pace. And retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guests, chart-topping songwriter, J.T. Harding.
I'm cleaning my glasses, excuse me.
I think you're supposed to do that pre-show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
these are the little things. I brushed my teeth and everything pre-show. I didn't want to
You
do
did,
it.
huh?
I didn't want to do it on the air. I didn't think it would be that interesting.
Yes, sure.
I think it would be interesting.
Watch me brush my tooth.
There's our third man in the booth, Derek Harris, and we got coming up today a special guest, J.T. Harding. Great songwriter. So we'll get to J.T. in a few minutes.
And I read his book. He's also an author.
He is an author. He's got a new book out yesterday called Confessions of a Rock Hero or something.
Something like that.
Party like a rock star.
Like a rock star. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yes, sir. Derek, I believe you had a question you wanted to ask us?
First question of the day is, have you guys ever been pulled over for no reason?
I hear a racial.
By the police, that is.
I think Derek got pulled over recently. Why don't you tell us your story, Derek?
Oh, that's a long story. Let's just say I went to pick up my wife from a party in which she had been drinking, and I hadn't had a drop to drink, and it was about midnight. We're at the stoplight. Police pulls. So think of it
in California.
California, Glendora, which is known to be
redneck.
Yeah, Mormon slash.
Redneck.
Anyway, they have a really interesting police force, and so police drives.
Can we see you on camera, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm on camera.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah. And
Tell the story.
Anyway, so imagine you're at an intersection at a stoplight doing nothing. I actually had my hat on backwards.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's.
You're lucky you didn't have a hoodie on.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, my son got pulled over for having a hoodie on, in the same car. So I'm driving a Mercedes, which is
There's 2 strikes against you. 2 strikes against you.
And so my wife and I are talking, and police pulls in front of us, right past us. It's pretty bright in this intersection, so he can see in the car. He immediately, as he passes us, does a U-turn and follows us for 2 blocks. I'm literally a half a block from my house, and lights come on, and walks up to the car. I'm pissed because I haven't done anything. So anyway, long story short, I don't give him my identification. I have a conversation with him, and I just refused because it's not appropriate. So I didn't give him any information, and I just was not compliant at all.
And
Wow, that takes a lot of
And?
And I essentially said to him, "You do not want to get..."
fuck with me? You
No, I didn't say that. I didn't want to be shot. I wasn't disrespectful, but I just said to him that you don't want to get involved in this particular process, because at that point I had made up my mind that if I give my ID and he comes back and says, "Oh, sorry, I made a mistake," blah blah blah, then my next call was going to be to a lawyer, because I don't think it's appropriate. And the reason why I asked that question is, Frank, how many times have you been pulled over
let me
for
just
no reason?
ask you a question before you go to the segue.
Yes,
Did you ask him, why did you pull me over? That would have been the first question out of my mouth.
Yeah, he said that my tags were expired.
were they?
No.
Wow, that's odd. No, I've had real good fortune with the police. I mean, I was pulled over twice, in Phoenix, when I was leaving a club late at night at 3 o'clock in the morning because they were looking for drunks, but I was on the wagon then. But when I was drinking, I mean, I escaped
but when
1,000
you
times.
escaped 1,000 times because you're a New York fireman.
Yeah, I got really lucky. I mean, but again, I total opposite of what Derek. When I got pulled over by a cop, and when I was on a job, I got more sirs out of my mouth in the first 5 minutes than I did the whole 4 years I was in the Air Force. It was, "Excuse me, sir, what seems to be the problem, sir?" Was I...
This is when you were drinking.
This is when I was drinking. Yeah, I mean, I was dead wrong. I mean, I know I was drinking. I tell you what, I went to the Mutt, Joe the Mutt, my buddy Joe the Mutt. His mother died. So we went up to Warwick for the funeral.
Right.
For the wake. And of course, it's a fireman's mother's wig. You know, there was the mutt, so we got plastered. Right? I mean, we were paralyzed. And I'm in a car with this guy, Jack Ryan, who's a...
Ryan, the dude from HBO?
Actually, there's so many Jack Ryans on the fire department. He was Jack Ryan number 9.
Right.
And that's what we used to call him, number 9. That was his nickname.
What a name.
So he was about 20 years older than me, Jack. So he's riding shotgun. I'm driving. I'm loaded. We don't get 10 minutes out of the funeral parlor. I get pulled over by a cop. Hi, excuse me, officer. I'm sorry, sir. What's the problem, sir? You were driving erratic. Gee, I'm really sorry, sir. He said, I know it doesn't make any difference, sir, but I'm on the New York City Fire Department. I know if you could do a little professional courtesy, blah, blah, blah. And the guy goes, fucking fireman. He says, you fucking fireman. Anyway, get out of here. I got pulled over. I was so drunk. I got pulled over by 2 other cops. Wow. On that same journey coming home. I got pulled over 3 times.
3 times.
By 3 different cops. Ryan says after a while, he goes, I said, Jack, hand me my license and registration the second time. Jack, hand me my license. He goes, why did I just leave it on my lap? He says, because I don't know how many more times we're going to get pulled over. So, I mean, I've been really fortunate.
Well, I've been pulled over once.
Okay.
And
once, like in total in your whole life?
Well, let me tell the story.
Okay. All right.
So I got pulled over, and this cop walks up to the window, and the driver's side. He says, "Driver and registration." I give him my driver and registration. He said, "You've been drinking." I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "You can't tell me you've been drinking beer." And I said, "Cops drink beer. I've been drinking cognac."
Why is this?
I didn't say that. I've never been pulled. I've never been pulled over in my life. But I mean, I've got pulled over, but I deserved a ticket.
Right.
But I never got pulled over not wanting.
You've never been pulled over for no reason.
No, and I've worn hoodies and everything else. I've never been pulled over for any reason whatsoever.
The United States of America.
Yep.
How wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, you gotta realize when you do get pulled over, they're holding all the cards. I mean, you got a blank hand. You got to play,
and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, without a doubt. I got pulled over one time again, drunk, coming home on up to Mayapack, and I got pulled over, and a cop says, "Step out of the car." I get out of the car. I said, "I know it doesn't make any difference, officer, but I gave him the whole 9 yards, but I'm a New York City fireman." He goes, "You fucking fireman." He goes, "All right, look, we're going to give you a drug test." He goes, "Recite the alphabet backwards." I says, "Okay." So I start going through it, and I'm drunk. So it's difficult.
By the way, I can't do it sober.
Yeah. Now he has me standing on one leg, reciting the alphabet backwards. I said, "Look, just fucking lock me up." I said, "Forget it." And the guy let me go. I mean, I've been blessed. Well, one other time, I don't know if I had told you this story once before, but it was Thanksgiving Eve, which is the busiest day of the bar business. And I'm up in my joint, JT Hooks, up in Mayapack. And 4 o'clock in the morning, I throw everybody out. Now I'm going to sit down and get drunk. I got drinking cognac, got whacked. 7:30 in the morning, I'm going to go drive and meet my girlfriend's house in Yonkers, which is about a 40-mile drive. And I'm loaded. I got no shot. So I get the idea, well, only 4 miles away is my racquetball club. It's a health club. I'll stop there. I'll take a shower, steam, plenty of steam, sweat it all out, plenty of water, and then I got a shot at getting home. So I do that. I go in there, I steam, water. Now I get back in the car about 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving. I get all the way down to Yonkers. I'm pulling off the exit, and I pull over. "Excuse me, officer. What seems to be the problem?" "What seems to be the problem?" He goes, "You went past me on that exit about 45 miles an hour, and I'm sitting right there." He goes, "You didn't even pay attention to me." I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I was drunk." He said, "What did you say?" I said, "I didn't mean to be disrespectful. I didn't see you. I was drunk." He says, "Are you crazy?" He says to me. I said, "No, let me tell you, I was, I sobered up, and I was in a hurry to get off. I didn't see you. It was no disrespect." He goes, "You show me your badge. I got to respect you, but you don't respect my badge." I said, "No, I didn't mean no disrespect." The guy let me go. It's amazing. I mean, I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, you've been very fortunate. The people on the road have been very fortunate. You weren't very fortunate.
Really stupid. But in them days, everybody drove drunk. I mean, it's what we did. I mean, I before Mothers Against Drunk Driving, everybody drove drunk. I mean, you got drunk and you went home. And my friend Buffalo used to say to me all the time, I said, you can't drive. Look at you. Look at the shape you're in. He goes, I got to drive. I can't walk. Too drunk to walk. I mean, that was the deal back in the day.
Yeah.
And thank God. I mean, I could have ruined my whole life. I mean, not just
you
kill some kid, killed anybody, killed a woman,
Yeah, and I said the same thing many times. I can't believe how many times I drove in an altered state. Speaking of altered states, let's bring on JT.
Real quick before we do. When I was working at Sears with the screwballs from the neighborhood, we used to drop mescaline sometimes and do mescaline and then drive a truck at deliveries. Wow. I mean, crazy. Wow. Crazy shit.
Crazy.
Well, let's bring on our guest songwriter, JT Harding. He's written with Kenny Chesney, Jake Owen, Darius Rucker, Blake Shelton, Keith Urban. He's a great guy, and he also has a pretty interesting real father. So let's bring him on.
Somebody you might know.
Yeah, somebody you might know. Let's bring him on. That's quite an imaginative background you got there.
Well, I knew you would say that, but I'm in a hotel, so I don't want to show the hotel room.
That's right. JT!
Do not adjust your computers. I'm really dressed like this.
The judge come with 2 pairs of pants or what? What's the story there?
Oh, it does, yeah.
That's, what's your name?
Hello, America and beyond. This is the Mick, a Mook, and a Mike podcast. Apparently, a wigwam, a Wookiee, and a Whitey was taken.
He likes his alliteration, this guy.
That's Billy O'Connor.
Nice to meet you, man. Real pleasure.
And
pleasure.
That's Derek Harris.
Hello.
And you are who? Who are you again?
My name is JT Harding. I am not only a hit songwriter. The reason I'm here is because I have a brand new book called Party Like a Rock Star, which was about to be published.
It was released yesterday.
It was. And you may not know my name, but I've written #1 songs for Blake Shelton, Kenny Chesney, Keith Urban. I also wrote a song that goes, you make me smile like the sun, fall out of bed. But here's the twist, everybody. I am the true story. I'm the illegitimate son of the late, great Jay Thomas, and that's how I know Joe. Yes, my birth certificate is an apology from a condom company. It's hanging in my house next to my 3 dozen gold records, and I'm glad to be here.
3 dozen gold. Nice.
By the way, who's Joe?
Joe Kakachi.
Yeah, well, where is Joe? He's not here.
Oh, I got the wrong name?
That can happen to the Pope, pal. It's a small fault in a good man. Don't worry about it. You're doing fine.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny. Really, you really think this is Joe Kakachi's podcast?
No. Frank Pace.
That's okay, brother. It's all good.
Oh, my Lord.
You got to sober up your tailor. I tell you the truth. You got to sober that guy up. That's some jacket. I'd give my left arm for that jacket. Out of money.
So you are related to
Jay Thomas.
Jay Thomas. I was going to say Tim Terrell.
Coming up next, a poetry about a poem I wrote about getting old, but I forgot what it's about. Yeah. Well, we've known each other for a long time. A lot of people, well, maybe some people know because they listen to Jay. I was put up for adoption by Jay when I was born. I didn't know him. I truly, it was totally meant to be. I was adopted by an incredible family, the Hardings, my parents. I never would trade them for anything in the world. But when I was about 22 or 23, I met Jay, and we became like 2 long lost fraternity brothers. So, and of course, he talked about you all the time.
Well, you mentioned Jay. I want to get to him in a second, but your father, Larry Harding, was quite an accomplished football player at Michigan State, wasn't he?
Yes, definitely. He caught a touchdown in the Rose Bowl before I was born, of course, and then he coached at Vanderbilt. And as I say in my book here,
Well, wait a second. He caught a touchdown before you were born.
Yeah,
But you weren't.
Jay had me. Jay had me while he was in college. I'm just trying to get it all into yourself.
So he played professional football.
Yeah, for just a moment, he played for the Rams. I haven't really heard much about it, but he had some knee injuries. So, and he used to carry me like a football, and it would drive my mom crazy. But he was so big. I mean, he was as tall as the Jurassic Park gates, and he was, my superhero. And then my brother Lance, who was not adopted, is also he was a tackling dummy at actually Michigan State. But with Jay and Lance, I mean, it was almost like they were related because they talked football nonstop.
Well, Jay always said his favorite day of the year was the beginning of the football season.
Wow. Yes, he loved it.
And I can always make money betting whoever Jay bet on, I would bet against. Because
that's true.
he would have all these parlays going on, and I'd call and say, "Who do you like today?" He says, "I like the Giants," so that I would bet on the Vikings. His life was really. If he could have been anything else, he would have been a professional football player, and he had a great arm. We had a good friend by the name of Mike Garrett who won the Heisman Trophy in 1965, and we were playing in a football game down in San Diego, and the combatants were me, Jay, Mike Garrett, Ken Bentley, who's the commissioner of the APA Golf Tour, Dave Smith, who was an all-star pitcher for the Houston Astros, Armin Katayan, and his friend. And we played just touch football. And Mike Garrett said that Jay had the best arm of anybody he had ever seen, with the possible exception of George Meyer, the All-American quarterback from
wow, that's heavy praise.
University of Miami.
Wow.
Definitely. And then my dad, Larry Harding, he stopped playing football because he had a knee injury. And then we played touch football with Jay sometimes, and he would say, "I don't want to run. I'm a quarterback because my knees hurt." So apparently football is bad on the knees, obviously.
Yeah, it's bad on Jay's knees because Jay was also colorblind. He always threw to the wrong color uniform.
Colorblind, a.k.a. smoked a lot of pot.
What did he say on he got
Herbed.
He got herbed up. He got herbed up.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I want to go into your career, but since we're talking about Jay and herbed up, why don't you tell the David Letterman story?
Me?
Yeah. No. Your cousin Tim.
That's
Who are we interviewing?
Okay, so Jay, yeah, this is great. And so Jay, as everyone probably knows, would go on David Letterman a lot, but always at Christmas and tell the world famous throw the football at the meatball and hit it off the Christmas tree. So leading up to that, Jay and I came on Jay's radio show. We had no idea that people would be interested in our story. We weren't trying to publicize it as much as we both love being on the radio and TV and everything, but a lot of people started calling us. So we went on the Today Show, where I took my shirt off and I had a bra on, which was awesome. We went on all sorts of shows in New York. I think, we went on Dr. Phil, which was incredible. He was super kind to us. But every time we were on a show, I would do something a little wild, and they would call us right back, or even call me back by myself. The Today Show, before I landed in Michigan, they were already calling me saying, "You got to come back, the guy that wore the funny bra." So let's say we've done about 10 or 11 shows like this. We get to the Christmas show, the David Letterman show. Now, that was the year that George Bush, someone threw a shoe at George Bush, the president. Yeah. Now, I would never do that personally. I don't know why the guy did it. But David Letterman got such a kick out of that. How I know that is because that night, you all sit in the audience. We all sit in the audience. He had someone throwing a shoe at Abraham Lincoln in the top 10 list. And then he played a video to warm up the crowd. They play videos to get the crowd excited. There was another thing of some other celebrity, and they had an animation shoe fly by. So anyway, I didn't really think much of it. Jay comes out on the show, He's telling his famous story. He's doing this. He's laughing. And David Letterman looks over at Jay and he says, "How's your son?" Meaning me. And Jay said, "Oh, you don't want to know about that." And then kept talking and talking. But this wasn't one of Jay's like funny reverse psychology things. He literally just wanted to brush over it. So Letterman says again.
And he wanted to talk about him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. His book should be called "I Never Met a Microphone I Didn't Like." And so Letterman asks him again, and I'm sitting out in the audience. And of course, I'm not as much like that now, but at the time I had my first song out. I loved being in People magazine with Jay. I loved all these shows. And I was like, "Jay, this is going to be really big. Maybe they'll call me onto the stage or something." So he says to Jay again, "You don't want to talk about your son?" And Jay said, "That's another kind of interview." So anyway, I did this or did that. So I don't know what came over me. I mean, I felt like 100 fire ants had bitten me. I felt heat flying out of my collar. I can't believe it's Letterman. So like a freaking pro tennis player, I slipped my shoe off, Frank, and like I throw it from the balcony, like the only throw I've ever made that meant anything. The shoe goes flying, bounces off Letterman's desk, bounces between all the chairs. And I stood up and I don't know what came over me. I stood up and I was like, "Letterman's the greatest. I'm Jay's son. I won't be ignored. Letterman, Letterman, Letterman." So all the cameramen, okay, listen, this is true. Imagine Spock from Star Trek, but he is a new person that was formed in a test tube with the Gronk and the Hulk. I felt a hand on my shoulder gripped me. I went, "Ugh." My feet did not touch the ground. Two guys with earpieces and suits lifted me out of my seat like Letterman security, down a giant flight of stairs. My feet never touched the ground, and they threw me out of the front doors of the Letterman thing. I went bouncing out on the sidewalk in the snow. And then a lady with a clipboard runs out. "Let him back in, let him back in. It's Jay's son." So the bodyguards pick me back up. My sock is squished up the shoe spot. And I hear the bodyguard brush me off. He puts me back in my seat and he says to his buddy, "Why don't they ever tell us they're going to do these pranks?" So, Jay, listen, I would never do that again. I'll keep going. After the show, we didn't sit at the desk and take pictures. I didn't meet Paul Schaefer like I'd done years before because I'd been at the show a lot. So we all come outside, and Jay is like a tiger in a small cage. He is so mad. He's screaming at me. He says, "You idiot. You've ruined this for me. This is not your place to do that. And if I see one word of this on your tweet machine, I'll never speak to you again." First of all, none of us know what a tweet machine is. He said, "I am so mad at you. It's like you're my real son." And Jake and Sam, his real sons, were standing there and they said, "What does that mean?" Yeah, so as they all go back to the hotel, and I'm left walking in front of the David Letterman thing, and there's a guy out there who stood out there asking for autographs, and he said to me, "I've seen all your shows. If this was a reality show, this would be an incredible ending to the first episode."
Well, the postscript to that story is Jay used to call me every night after he did the Christmas Letterman show. He called me, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something like, "Do you know what that motherfucker JT did? That motherfucker threw his shoe out of the balcony and almost fucking hit Letterman. You watch the show tonight. You'll have to see it, but I think they're going to cut it out." And they cut it out, didn't they?
They cut it out, and I'll end the story really quick. You're great listeners. So Jay forbid me to contact Letterman, and this is it. I got to keep that. This is all in my book here with better details. So I was watching Letterman one night, and he had someone's mom on, a comedian who had passed away that Jay had cut off the show. We don't need to get into all that, but he had the man's mom on to apologize to her. So I wrote a letter to Letterman. I said, "I shouldn't have thrown the shoe. I apologize. It wasn't my place. Jay has earned a right on your show, and you have earned the right to have who you want on." Something like that, short and sweet. I just addressed it to their building, Ed Sullivan Theater. Never thought anything else of it. I felt really, really bad. And then I got a letter from FedEx, a letter from David Letterman. I wish I had it here. I'd hold it up. And it said, "JT, in 30 years of television, no one has ever thrown a shoe at me, so we'll always have that. I'm a fan of your father's. Tell him he's welcome back anytime. So, and then postscript to that is people started sending me videos to my Facebook of Jay storming into TV shows to bother Howard Stern and storming into TV shows to bother this guy or that guy trying to get noticed. And then someone called up and said, Jay, you're being a hypocrite with your son. And Jay said, my friend, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Alligators raise alligators.
I tell you a story. It was a little bit different story. You told it in your book, but Jay's interpretation of facts sometimes got in the way of the truth. He never let the facts interfere with a good story. So you told a story of how you found Jay and met Jay. Jay told me a far different story, which I wrote in the book. He said he got a knock on the door. There was this kid there. He said he was my son. I said, well, you have to get a paternity test. He said, no, all you have to do is look at him. His name is JT, and you'll know he's my son. So I invited him to the Beverly Hills Hotel tomorrow, which was the next day, Jay was getting an award. And the award he was getting was the Father of the Year.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
With his two kids. And I remember we went there with Jay, Sally, Sam, and your grandmother, Jay's mom.
Kathy. Wasn't it Kathy?
Yeah, Kathy Terrell, who was a whole nother story entirely.
Yes.
I mean, she was 74 years old at one time, and Jay called me and he said, I don't know what to do. I can't reach my mother. I think she's out for the night. I think she's a whore.
Oh, God.
And Kathy, by the way, would dress like that jacket.
Yeah.
She had all, and he discovered that his mother, when he was 74, his mother was not collecting Social Security because she didn't want anybody to know how old she was.
Wow.
So
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree,
which doesn't fall far from the tree. So
that's hilarious.
Billy?
Well, I read your book, Party Like a Rock Star. Really well done, man. Great book. Really enjoyed it. I got a couple of questions. I don't even know if you're allowed to answer them or will you answer them. But the high priest, the guy with the sequins that you opened for in Japan, you ever going to divulge who that is or what? I kept picturing Elton John, but it can't be Elton John because it was all about women. So
You're good. And what he's referring to in my brand new book published by Hashem,
Party Like a Rock Star.
Party Like a Rock Star, that's out now. There's I've traveled. So before I was a hit writer, I was trying to get into the business any way I could. Jay hated music, so he was no help. But I traveled the world working for a couple of different rock stars. I traveled the world with the band Linkin Park, who let me open up for them.
That's a hilarious story in the book, by the way. Hilarious. And balls. You got balls like steel to get booed by 20,000 people for 15 minutes.
Yeah, they would let me open up for them when I would get booed most nights. But I also traveled the world with someone named that I call the man in the sequin pajamas. And we went to incredible places with different cultures, different languages, different food. We went to Russia. We went to Japan. We went to Iowa. We did it all. And you know what? If you say his name 3 times, he'll appear. So we just call him the man in the sequin pajamas because everything he wore had sequins. He said to me in his voice that sounded like he swallowed a wasp, he said, Einstein didn't think about what he had to wear. He wore the same thing every day, and I'm no different than Einstein, so make sure that my sequins clothes are always ready. He had sequin socks, shirt, pants, coats. So you just have to read the I'm not the kind of guy that says, oh, it's in the book, read the book. But this one, yeah, the man in the sequin pajamas, you got to read.
Why don't you tell, you mentioned Russia, why don't you tell a story about a man selling a polar bear in Moscow or something?
Yeah, I joke around a lot. So when I was in Russia, they called it the new time. And I figured out that meant after the end of communism. And I was walking the streets of Russia. I can't even pronounce the name of the shopping street. Maybe some people have been there, but this is not a joke.
Arbat Street.
That's it, Arbat. I saw a man trying to sell a real live polar bear on a chain. I'll never forget it. And I saw another woman carrying an orangutan, not a stuffed animal, a real orangutan in a clown uniform. And it was my job to like have fluorescent colored Skittles and loud music playing and girls backstage. And I kept thinking, I tried to get the lady with the orangutan to come, but it was not. Yeah, it was just wild. People were just selling anything and everything to make money over there. But it was incredible. It was definitely incredible.
How'd you meet Keith Urban?
Oh, great story. So I wrote a song called "Somewhere with You." If you're a country fan, you might know it. That Kenny Chesney put out. Kenny was already a superstar, selling out stadiums, but this was the first song he ever recorded that sold 1 million copies. It was a 3-week #1. It completely changed my life. So Keith Urban started telling his fans online that he loved the song, and he put up a little link for people to buy it. I had never met Keith Urban. He did not know who I was or who wrote the song. He just apparently liked it. So being in Nashville, that was pretty great feeling. So I was at a Songwriter award show a few months later. Everyone was in suits and ties, and I was
you were in your leopard jacket.
I was in my leopard, yeah. I was in my leopard jacket. And I was in the men's room, true story, washing my hands, and I could, my eyes hit the mirror, and behind me at the urinal, taking a leak, was Keith Urban. So I invented the long hand wash, Frank. I just stayed there and stayed there. And he came up, and I introduced myself to him. I said, "I'm JT. I wrote Somewhere with You." And he was like, "Shit, Mike, what a song." And he gave me his phone number right there in the men's room. Yeah, the first chapter of my book, and an Australian and an American walk into a men's room.
and you wrote what song did you write with Keith?
Oh, so yeah, thanks. So then Keith and I ended up writing a song called "Somewhere in My Car." Nothing says country music like a kid from Detroit and a guy from Australia that's married.
And how did that process go about? So what was it like walking into the studio to write a song with Keith Urban?
Man, that is a great question, Frank. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm not starstruck around celebrities, because I always am, but I just try to play it cool. And we were in a giant studio, Blackbird Studios. It's just a huge studio right out of a movie. And we met up, and I picked up my guitar, and then Keith picked his up. So then I put mine down because he's Keith Urban. We literally sit eye to eye. It's almost like if anyone has watched Get Back, the Beatles thing, but there was just two of us. We just sit kind of eye to eye, and we strum and just throw out every idea you can think of. We have a philosophy in the music business, songwriting. We say dare to suck, which means you can't be afraid. Maybe you guys say that when you're writing movies and stuff. You can't be afraid to say something that might be stupid, because it might be the little magic seed that pops out. So, and I came prepared. I had all sorts of titles, and Keith was very smart. He said, "Here's how I want the drums. Here's what I want the guitar to be." And he said, "And I want it to be a relationship, a song about looking back on another relationship." And he said, "Man, I just drive around all the time. I spend a lot of time in the car." And we came up with "Somewhere in My Car." It was fantastic. And then we went out to lunch, Frank, and I had the window down, and we would stop at like a stoplight. And he had a car that looked like the Batmobile. And any girls like crossing the street, they were like pointing. They're like, "That's Keith Urban." And I was like, "Hit me up on Instagram."
That's the motivation, the real motivation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
But did the song title come from that?
We wrote the song, and the song goes, "In my mind, somewhere in my car." And then I think the song was called "In My Mind," but then when we were done with the song, we titled it "Somewhere in My Car." And he put it out, and it was another #1 song. And as you can see, I like my money where I can see it, hanging in my closet.
That's terrific.
So you write words and lyrics to all your songs. I mean, you write the lyrics and the music. And
yeah, definitely. And real basic. I don't know how to read music. I don't know the names of the chords. My songs are really catchy, probably because the chords are so simple. I just love music, and we just come up with the words and come up with the music. Sometimes it takes an hour. Sometimes it takes 2 days. It's a very mysterious, magic process. And in Nashville, it's a full contact sport. And what I mean is we write every single day down there. I'm sure Neil Young and Bruce Springsteen or Motley Crue or someone, maybe they write 10 songs and that makes an album. But for some reason in Nashville, we just write all the time, and these hits pop up, and you really can't predict which one people are going to like. It's very mysterious,
Well, it's interesting that you wrote the song with Keith, because I've got some friends in Nashville who are also songwriters, and he wrote "I'm Moving On," which was recorded by Rascal Flatts, and it was and it was their first hit. And it was "I'm Moving On," and it was about leaving his ex-wife and Lubbock behind, and he just looking at his town in the rearview mirror as he was driving away. So I guess country music has a lot to do with rearview mirrors.
Yes, definitely. And bathroom mirrors, yeah. Isn't that interesting? Because it's smart of Rascal Flatts, because some people would think, well, if Keith wrote it but he's not recording it, maybe it's not good, because that's how we all think. But Rascal Flatts were smart enough to still do it.
Yeah, Keith didn't write it. My friend David Vincent Williams wrote it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there are songs that Kenny Chesney wrote or other people have written that they don't record that still become really big hits.
Yeah, my friend David Vincent Williams wrote it, but Rascal Flatts recorded it. It was their first hit. Their first hit.
Yeah,
so,
great band.
What other songs do you like or are your favorites that you've written?
Definitely "Smile" that I wrote with a guy named Uncle Kracker, probably because it's the biggest, and I hear it every time I go into a Walgreens. I'm hot in the pharmacies, Frank. I'm hot in the pharmacies.
Why'd you sing a little bit of it? Why'd you sing the refrain?
Make me smile like the sun, fall out of bed, sing like a bird, dizzy in the head, spin like a podcast on a Saturday night. Oh, you make me smile. And he's also from Michigan. He didn't know I was from Michigan because we met down in Nashville here and some songs that I had written. So to have my very first hit to be, we wrote it in Michigan. The first radio stations played it in Michigan, and then it got really big. That was fun. And then just this past year, people always laugh when I say this, but it's not a joke. I wrote a song called "Beers and Sunshine" that was in #1 with Darius Rucker, who everyone knows was in Hootie and the Blowfish. But we wrote the song over Zoom. When I say that, it shows. Everyone laughs. It's not a joke. But it's really interesting how, I know it's a boring subject, but it's interesting how the quarantine didn't stop us from writing songs. I'd never even heard of Zoom, but here we are on your podcast, and we kept writing songs. But I love that song, too. The only BS I need is beers and sunshine. That's the refrain.
I like it. Well, I want to ask you, Derek here, our third man in the booth, is a devout devotee of Prince. Why don't you tell me about your encounter with Prince?
Wow, Derek, I love it. Love your style. So I loved rock and roll. Then I went to see Purple Rain, and it just was life-changing. It was almost like, Dorothy landing in Oz. It was like everything went from black and white to Technicolor. I just couldn't believe this movie. I loved Purple Rain. Bought the record, saw him in concert. So fast forward, I move out to LA to try to get record deals. I'm working at a used clothing store on Melrose. Now the rule was we don't sell anything on the mannequins that are on display on Melrose. I got it. The boss told me 100 times. So one day I'm in there checking price tags, and I had a lit roller, and I just hear this soft voice. I want that shirt. Just like that. And I turned next to me, and no one was there. And then I looked down, and it was Prince. It felt like someone. I can't tell you. Just if you're listening or watching this, just imagine the biggest star you would ever want to meet, and they're standing right there. It felt like someone poured a bucket of cold water on me, and he was pointing to a robin egg blue, frilly, fluffy shirt that Austin Powers would wear, but not in a joke kind of way. It's a real shirt. And he said, and the rule was we don't get anything off the mannequin. So I said, no problem. And I got some little cord cutters because they had like zip ties around the thing. So I went bing, 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 bing. I pulled this thing off, and Prince is just standing there with, of course, a beautiful woman. I'm getting the shirt down, and the frickin', the boss comes running down, and he's in a Grateful Dead shirt, and he looks like he ate Jerry Garcia's stomach. Comes running down, and he goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm getting the man who wrote Purple Rain anything he wants. You can fire me, you can do whatever. We're giving him this shirt. So he looks and he sees Prince there, and Prince is right off the movie screen. His eyes are as big as Bambi's. He looked like a doll almost. And the guy was like, "Well, okay, but don't give it to him for free. He has a lot of money, So that was that story. And this was before cell phones. Probably for the best. I didn't get a picture. I didn't get an autograph. It's really, thank you, Frank, for asking. It's almost unbelievable that happened now looking back on it.
Well, what's part 2 of that story?
Part 2 of that story is a guy came in wearing a Paisley Park shirt. Paisley Park, as most people know, is Prince's studio, his house. The guy had long hair, total rocker, keep a little chain on his belt. And I was like, "Oh, Paisley Park, Prince was in here the other day." And he said, "Oh, yeah, we're filming a video down on the steps of City Hall." And I was like, "Really?" That's all he said. So I took the bus down there late that night. I mean, I'm like, 18 years old, taking a bus down into the absolute, war zone that was downtown LA. I say that with love. And I saw them filming. There was nobody there. It was 3 a.m. There was no one there. The steps of, it's a video called Diamonds and Pearls, if you feel like looking it up. And I sat there and watched, and when I knew that the video was kind of coming to a close, I kind of started walking towards Prince, just like, to say hi to him. And the guitar tech, just looked at me with daggers in his eyes. He's like, "It's the kid from the store." He was thinking, "Don't take another step closer." So I was like, "Oh, man." So I just kind of left. And as I was walking back to the bus stop, I mean, there were just homeless people everywhere in tents, and I'm walking, and a huge limousine pulls around the corner. It has to be Prince, I'm thinking. So kind of like the Letterman thing, I start going, "Prince, you're the greatest. I sold you that shirt." This is a true story, man. The sunglass window rolls down. And it was so hot out. It was one of those nights where the air conditioning kind of spilled out of the window, like you could feel it. And then a little white light clicked on, and it just was shown on Prince's face, just real quick. And he kind of looked at me, and then clicked the light off and drove away. And I like to believe in my heart that he was like, "Well, I'll just say hi to him." And I've heard stories of Elton John walking right up to Prince and saying, "Oh, I'm a big fan," and Prince just walking away. So it's just probably what he did, and it was fantastic, and that's the story. And by the way, this story and more in the new book, Party Like a Rock Star.
Well,
this book is better than a dating app because you actually get real stories. You get what's in the picture. You actually get stories and great songwriting advice.
We got a 12-year-old kid breaking a guitar?
Oh, on the cover. Whoa. Yeah, that's me. That's a picture of me at the Battle of the Bands that I saved all these years.
Reassembled to break.
Yes, exactly. You really read the book. So as you can tell by my outfit, I have leg warmers, bandanas, and ripped shirts, and I'm breaking a guitar. As you can tell, I hate attention. But I have kept that picture from ever since I was a kid in a drawer, never knowing what it would be used for. It was in the local high school newspaper before I was even in high school. And when I sent it to the book company, I sent them a bunch of pictures. The guy said, "This absolutely has to be the cover." So, yeah.
I got a note here, something about a Michael Jackson story. Do you have a Michael Jackson story? Did I read a Michael Jackson story in your book?
Absolutely. I worked at Tower Records on Sunset. There's so many stories. Listen, everybody. Jay Thomas and I had never met. For those of you just tuning in, Jay gave me up for a job as a kid. It was meant to be. We had never met. I didn't know who he was. I had no idea that he was my father. And he used to come into Tower Records with his buddies, and people would say, "Oh, that's that actor over there." Also, there was a movie premiere. Oh, internet connection unstable. That's all right. It's Jay's Ghost. So it's really weird how we all cross paths. I would cross paths with Jay before I actually knew him. I'd watch him on TV. But
let me interrupt, because Jay was a very big disc jockey in LA, and when he moved out here, there was billboards all over the place that said, "We apologize for Jay Thomas." You saw those from your apartment window.
I did. From my apartment window, I was out there trying to make music. I had no money. I had 4 or 5 roommates, a revolving door. On a building outside of my apartment, at 7 stories high or whatever, was Jay's head on the body of a woman. And I have a picture of it. I can send it to you.
Body of a woman.
Yeah, it said, we apologize for Jay Thomas because he was really getting in a lot of trouble on the radio, which is so great. As he used to say to me, I did everything Howard Stern did. I got fired, and he got $100 million. Idiots.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. So every celebrity would come into Tower, and I was so naive that I thought if I work at a record store and I'll bring my demo there, I'll meet people that work at record companies. They'll deliver records. They'll come in there looking at records, and rock stars will come in. And that's exactly what happened. Eventually, I did get a record deal from passing my demo there, but every celebrity came in. And one day the phone rang, and I was like, Tower Records, JT speaking. And I heard, is the manager there? This is Michael Jackson. I said, oh, Michael. Of course, I think it's prank call. This is Tootie. Remember times? Call me Miss Jackson if you're nasty. And he says, because I didn't know it was Michael Jackson. And he laughs. He goes, well, I'll be in after midnight. Tell the manager. And I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. So I hang up and I go back to filing CDs and flirting with girls. And the store's closing. And I'm mopping it up. And the manager comes with like just so angry. He's like, Michael Jackson's here. You can stay if you want. I got a cold beer calling my name. I'm going to lock up. So I was like, Michael Jackson's here. So I'll never forget it. I look out in the parking lot. I don't know my cars, but it was like a little Toyota Camry or something. And the driver gets out, and Michael Jackson gets out of the back seat, and his foot got caught on the. Oh, you still there?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
but you're sort of there. You're coming and going. But
That's all right.
go ahead.
We got you. Continue the stories.
Wait, let's see.
Wait.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's the internet at the hotel, so we'll wait until it does.
Do you want me to re-sign on or anything?
No, you're good, man.
We'll wait till it stabilizes. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Continue. It's stabilized now.
Okay, great. I'm in Kentucky. They might not have internet here.
But you wrote a song called Kentucky, but that's a whole different topic. So go ahead.
Yes.
Michael Jackson's got his foot caught. That's where we're at right now. He's got his foot caught.
He's got his foot caught in the seatbelt. I was like, the king of pop is right there with his foot caught in the seatbelt. I couldn't believe it. So he came in and he shopped and did everything he was supposed to do. And then I said, hey, I have something for you. And he said, what is it? And his eyes got really wide, and it was my demo tape. And I gave it to him, and he looked, his face kind of looked sad, and he said, oh, I can't take it because people try to sue me all the time. You guys still got me?
Yeah.
All right, good. No, as long as you got the sound, hopefully. Yeah. So his face looked disappointed. He said, I can't take it. People try to sue me all the time. And that didn't make sense to me at the time, because why would I ever sue him? And he put his hand on my shoulder, and he just said, just believe in yourself and you'll be fine. I can tell you believe in yourself. And he went off into the night. Now, what's funny about that, I am signed to Sony Music Publishing for my music, and I am not allowed to take demo tapes from anybody. And people try to give them to me all the time because there are a lot of lawsuits. There's only so many song titles. There's probably 1 million songs called Smile or Beers and Sunshine or whatever. I didn't copy them, of course. But so it's funny after all these years thinking about Michael Jackson saying, hey, I can't take your demo, and it was so disappointing to me. But now I have to explain that same thing to young people. But it was great. It was great to meet him. Another brush with greatness.
That's a good explanation, actually. That's good for people to know about the suing, because that happens also with scripts as well.
I got to tell you, I got to segue from that believe in yourself. Man, did you ever believe in yourself? Because you were relentless. I mean, you were determined to get somebody to see your demos, man. I mean, besides the FedEx outfit, which was pretty remarkable. I mean, you delivered your own demos to every goddamn radio station in LA. I mean, have the balls to go out and get booed by 20,000 people for 15 minutes before Lincoln Park. And you really did believe in yourself, man. I mean, that takes a lot of balls. My hat's off to you.
Wait. So what's the story with the FedEx?
Well, why don't you tell us a story about the FedEx? I read your book, and that's why I know the story. But to our audience, why don't you let them know?
Well, I was trying to do anything to get my songs heard, and I was dating this girl and she was actually. I was dating this girl, and her roommate, I was trying to think of what it was. Her roommate worked for FedEx, and I was just saw the jacket. So I said, oh, can I borrow that jacket? So I borrowed the FedEx jacket, and I would walk. I was like Obi-Wan Kenobi entering the the Death Star. You know? I could go anywhere. I could go anywhere. So I would go to record companies and just slide my demo into everybody's mailbox. And you know, I like to say, you know, there's a greeting card. Well-behaved women never make history, and neither do well-behaved songwriters. So I don't know if it's legal. I don't really care, but I did stuff like that all the time, you know.
Yeah, well-behaved women never make history. Good with the old line that says, "Good girls go to heaven and bad girls go everywhere."
Yeah, exactly. By the way, there was a meme going around that my friends were laughing about, and it's a pair of like leather kind of alligator shoes, and it said, "If your dad wore these shoes, you have siblings you don't know about." And all of my friends were laughing, going, "Oh, my dad never would wear those, obviously." And I saw the picture and I thought, holy shit, Jay Thomas had a pair of these shoes. Wow. Well, so I sent it to my younger brothers, Jake and Sam. I said, you know, your dad wore these. And if your dad wore these, you have siblings you don't know about. Too classic.
Well, you know, Jake, Sam, and Sally have been a second family to you. And
sure.
They are terrific, all terrific people, and I love them dearly, as I love Jay, and as I sort of like you. But why don't you tell your mother? I don't know whether it was your mother or your real mother said your father's in Hollywood and he's an actor on Cheers.
Yes. So when you're adopted. I've always heard there are these rules. You can't find your biological parents. It's not allowed. I'll say it 100 times over. I wasn't longing for anything. My mother and father, Larry and Kendra Harding, irreplaceable. But I was always curious, and I saw some sort of 800 number. Were you adopted? Find out who your parents are. Through computers, it's real easy these days. I called it. It was free. Through the computer, they matched me up with my biological mother. And I don't talk about her too much out of respect. She has her own story. She can tell it sometime. But we talked on the phone for a while, and she said, I want to tell you who your biological father is. And I'm living in Hollywood at the time. And I said, oh. And she said, he's not like other people. And I'm saying, you know that now, but I say this with a kind heart. When someone says that, I thought, this is not a joke. I thought, and once again, I'm saying this with a kind heart. Maybe was he injured? Was he in prison? I didn't know what that meant. And then she said, he's an actor. And I said, and I just knew she was telling the truth. I don't know. I knew she was telling me the truth. It had been months we'd been talking. And she said, he was on the show Cheers. And my mind was scanning the cast of Cheers. And you know, at the end of a Kiss concert, when confetti falls down, I pictured that, but with dollar bills. And I yelled to my roommates, my biological father is Ted Danson! And we all jumped around. Score! Yes, and she said, no, Jay Thomas. And you want to talk about the Twilight Zone theme starting. All of a sudden, Jay's, Mr. Holland's Opus was out. So there was a billboard of that. He was on Power 106. I had gone and done an interview there. The big We Apologize for Jay Thomas sign was there. I had heckled Jay at a movie premiere that I was at, once again trying to meet Prince. Jay was the MC on the red carpet. My friends and I were actually heckling him, had no idea he was my biological father. I mean, if it was a script that Frank wrote, you would think it was too fake, but it's a real story.
And to end all the coincidences, Jay Thomas's name is John Thomas Terrell. It took JT. And what are your initials?
My name is John Thomas Harding. My parents never knew about Jay, so it's just a coincidence. I'm named after my grandfather, and everyone called JT, or called Jay JT. I didn't, but a lot of people do. It's really strange, yeah.
Jay Thomas, who never met a job he didn't like.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart guy. You gotta work.
Is he really the funniest, Frank? Is he really the funniest person you ever met? That's a tall compliment.
Well, he's the funniest person David Letterman ever met, and David Letterman's met a few more people than me.
Yeah, but I mean, you one of your best friends was Don Rickles, so that's really saying something.
Yeah, right? But Don was in when the camera was off. Don was somebody else.
Uh-huh.
It was only
Jay was Jay all the time.
Jay was Jay all the time. Unlike Robin. Robin was only Robin when the camera was on. When the camera was off, Robin was quiet, almost sullen. Jay was on all the time. Jay always
of all the Jay Thomases in the world, he was the Jay Thomas-ist, for sure.
The Jay Thomas is, but I think you're a close second.
Well, I'm pumped up. I'm excited to be on here. Your website's incredible, and I was so pumped up. I wouldn't have missed this for the world.
Well, evidently you would have, because I called you like 6 months earlier. 8 months earlier.
But I knew the book was coming out.
That's what I wanted to say.
So
you said, can I wait till the book comes out? And the book was out yesterday. Get it. It's a great read. It's a terrific story. It's, again, another guy who made his own breaks. And Billy talked about it.
Without a doubt. I mean, he was not only persevere, he was relentless. I mean, and the break came when you were giving out your CDs to everybody and anybody. And was with a girl in the back of a car, or was listening to the CD, and then, I mean, it's an incredible story. I mean, I recommend anybody to read the book. It's a great read.
Totally.
It's a really good read.
Sometimes I wish I was still that confident, but you know what it's like. You both, broke into the business when you're young, and I look back, I give people advice. You have nothing to lose. You don't want to be annoying and like chase someone down the street and then they, get a restraining order against you. But if you happen to very politely give someone your music and they like it, your whole world can change. And if they don't like it, it's no big deal. Nothing changes. So I just say you have nothing to lose.
Well, I have to.
And don't bore us. Get to the chorus. Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
I have to. What's the right word? I can't think of it now. One of those senior moments. I have
to segue. You want to segue?
I have to object to one thing you said. Billy never really got into the business.
Billy's been given the business. I've been given the business plenty. I can tell you that.
Billy was a fireman, New York City fireman. He's an alcoholic, a 9/11 responder. His life really started in 58.
I got to give you a quick story because I know the Kiss influenced you a lot when you were a kid, according to the book. Anyway, I tell you a quick Kiss story.
Yes,
Ace Frehley, who was the lead guitarist of Kiss, grew up in my neighborhood, right? So I'm 18 years old. I'm on my way to Vietnam. I'm on my way to go down to basic training. I think I had about 2-3 quarts of beer that night when an 18 knocked me on my ass. I'm hungover. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm on my way up to catch the subway down to Whitehall Street, which is where we get inducted. And I see Ace, who at the time was Paul Frehley. He's sitting on a stoop and he's sniffing a bag of glue. He's got, at the time, glue was a big deal in the neighborhood, And he's sniffing glue out of a paper bag. And I look over, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, Frank, and I says, there's poor Paul, man, Frehley, man. Look at that poor prick, he ain't going nowhere. At least I got a career, I'm not making the army. Well, fucking, it's 1 year later, I've been crawling through rice paddies, and he's the lead guitarist of Kiss. That's a true story. Ace Frehley.
Is incredible.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I seen Ace maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And I says, I don't remember you that well for the neighborhood, Billy. He goes, it must have been my glue years. I said, it was your fucking glue years. He got thrown out of Kiss for doing too much drugs. I said, who the fuck gets thrown out of a rock band for doing too much drugs?
Yeah, but you know your stuff because not many people know his name is Paul. Paul Frehley.
Yeah. Well, he grew up in my neighborhood. I knew him.
I love it. He really, he's the real rock star. By the way, gentlemen, I need one of those big book covers like you have. If these lips could talk, that book cover back there, I need one of those for my book. That's great.
Call your publisher and tell them to spend $50 and buy you one.
I will.
Or go to a print shop. Take a picture of it and spend $50.
How about the conversion for you? Why country music after all the rock bands, the rock stars that Kiss, Van Halen, Wham, they all influence you, but yet you write country music. Why is that?
No, Billy, that's a great question. It just kind of happened naturally, and I think one of the reasons that I have become a success in Nashville is because I didn't try to write songs about, I'm on my John Deere tractor and I've got my cowboy hat because I didn't grow up like that. Country music is, and this is not a joke, it's very similar I think, to rap music. And what I mean by that is it has to be incredibly authentic for the fans to believe it. Country music fans are very smart, and they're not going to go for people that come down there. I see it all the time. People say, like, I don't even know what a red dirt road is. I guess it's clay. So I was just writing songs, and they said, you should go to Nashville. Your songs, your lyrics are like 3-minute movies. And I've been very lucky that the country fans have embraced it. But I'll say it again, it's mainly because I've been myself. I wrote a song for Blake Shelton called Sangria. Now, the guys that write all the hits about Georgia would not write a song about Sangria because they're writing about whiskey and all that. But in turn, I wouldn't write a song called Corn Makes the Rain, Rain Makes the Corn, Corn Makes the Whiskey, because I didn't even know that really happened like that. So I've been very lucky. Yeah, that's a real song. So I've been really lucky. And then Smile, my first hit, was a pop hit, and then it crossed over into the country chart. And I've been trying to do that again for 10 years, but I can't seem to do it. So all these great little, coincidences happen. But I love being in Nashville, and it's incredible how nurturing Nashville is. We're all competitive, but we all help each other out, and it's a really great place to live and to do music.
Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about Mrs. Keith Urban.
Oh, Nicole Kidman. Well,
and your brother Let's.
Yeah, so when you get a #1 song in Nashville, it's incredible. They have a party for you, and you can invite all your friends and all your family, and everyone is so excited, including myself, to be near the celebrity. So, and we get up and make a speech, and Keith played the song, and they give us gold records, and everyone gets pictures. So I'm on stage, and my brother Lance, who I said earlier went to Michigan State, he was a 4-year freshman. I saw this gigantic bodyguard going like this to me, like scratching across his neck, and I was like, what's this guy's problem? And then he points over, and I see my brother Lance with his arm around Nicole Kidman, his beer splashing over his red state. You gotta come to Michigan State. We got the best parties. He hasn't been a student there in 20 years, and he's still going up there to keggers. So, but she couldn't have been kinder. She was very pretty, and her and Keith are around Nashville all the time, and she was just very, very sweet. I'm not going to pretend that I know them very well, because I don't at all, but it's certainly fun to be around people that have experienced so many things and been in so many great movies.
Before we go, Derek, do you have any questions for JT? I saw you scribbling some notes down.
I got a question for you, and
For
then
me?
I have a question for JT as well. But the first question is, so how much does he remind you of Jay?
When I told Jay he needed to get a paternity test, he said, all you have to do is look at him to know he's my son.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you can see the resemblance. It's
Yep.
like the smile, the laugh, the whole deal, the energy.
and because of this interview, this hour we spent with JT, I'm reliving
Yeah, that's
40 years of my
Wow.
life
Yeah.
because I've known
Oh my gosh.
I had known Jay since we were 19 years old. We were going to Jacksonville University, and I had an apartment at the Nottingham Hotel, Nottingham Apartments, which were right across from the university, right next to the Nottingham Drive-In, and we all had roommates. And the first time I met Jay, he had come to the school as the king of the city on WAPE in Jacksonville. He was the afternoon drive time guy who got promoted to the morning drive time, and he was called the king of the city. He was 19 years old at that time. He came driving through the parking lot, and he stopped. He was in like an old broken down Volvo or something. Again, he always drove cheap cars. He never drove a Mercedes or a good car. He was incredibly tight with his money, and he said he didn't want to waste it on cars. So he said, "I said, do you live here?" He said, "Yeah, I live right over there." I said, "Who's your roommate?" He said. He looked at me like I asked him a horseshit question. He said, I make $19,000 a year. I don't need a roommate. And he drove off. And that was Jay. That was Jay.
First encounter, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
First ever since.
$19,000 a year. Yes.
I don't need a roommate. He was living with Cheryl Capps at the time. I'll never forget it.
Oh, that's so great.
I got Go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah.
The other question, you mentioned something about somebody saying that your songwriting is like a 3-minute movie. So I would imagine it's very similar to what they expect comedians to do is write sort of in pictures. I sort of write and think in the abstract. So, but it seems like you, when you write for a song, you're painting a picture in the listener's mind. Is that true?
Yes, and it's really the only way I know. It's a great question, Derek. It's really the only way I know how to write songs is just to load it up with a lot of personal details. In Somewhere With You that I mentioned earlier that I wrote for Kenny Chesney, it says, laughing aloud on a carnival ride, driving around on a Saturday night. You made fun of me for singing my song. I got a hotel room to try to turn you on. And there's incredible, and so that's what works for me. And I think that's what Nashville is really based on, or lyrics like that. And also, but there's huge, like if you read a Phil Collins lyric sheet, you'll think he's on acid. You don't know what he's talking about, but for some reason the songs are iconic and they're great in their own way. But I wonder if it's because of texting and YouTube. I feel like pop songs now have, not only now, but have great lyrics as well. Like Teenage Dream is one of my favorite songs that by Katy Perry. Those lyrics are great. But I know songs have always had stories, like a song that Jay hated, the Edmonds Fitzgerald. Do you guys remember that about the boat?
Sure.
Who would slow dance to that? He'd be like, you're on a romantic date listening to sailors dying in a ship.
The record of the Edmonds Fitzgerald. Yep.
Yeah, totally. He always brought that song up. I try to write songs in pictures, and it was very helpful writing my book. I did 10 drafts of the book, and the publisher kept saying, it's got to be more like your song. It's like a movie for the ears. If that's the audiobook or a movie, they're not seeing it, so you really have to explain the details of it. So, but thanks, Derek. Yeah, I mean, abstract is great. It works, but also the pictures work well.
Aside from the Katy Perry song, what one song do you wish you had written?
Ooh, oh, Boys of Summer by Don Henley. I just love songs that make you feel kind of sad and happy at the same time. And that one just, rips your heart out. But then in the end, he says, babe, I'm going to get you back, going to show you what I'm made of. Remember when I made you crazy? Remember when I made you scream? It's just, that's a masterpiece. And Boys of Summer by Don Henley. But there's so many, there's so many.
For you, does the music come first or the lyrics, or is there no rhyme or reason they come together, or how does it work for you?
It's a great question. It's always different. Sometimes I keep a lot of titles in my phone. I used to have to write them down. So if I hear someone say something, I'll put it in my phone. And a lot of times I'm just strumming the guitar, thinking of a little melody. And sometimes it all comes at once, not the whole song. But since I'm writing every day in Nashville, I try to go in prepared with the seed of something, just so I'm not the guy sitting there going, oh, I don't know what we're going to do today. Because I've learned you have to chase inspiration down. Just waiting for it to fall in your lap doesn't work for me. I think, I don't know, Jack Kerouac or someone said you have to chase inspiration with a club. And I believe that. I find that the answers are in the work. So I'm kind of just strumming and trying to piece things together.
That's great stuff.
I have one more request. If you were to do a public service announcement for a songwriter, could you do a quick 30-second? So one of the things I captured from this interview is sort of be fearless and try to break into the industry any way you can. Another is
Yes.
write in pictures. So could you give us a top 3 for the aspiring songwriter?
Yes, a top 3 for the aspiring songwriter. This is certainly important for country music. If someone out there, if you want to write hit songs for country artists that get on the radio and get on albums by country stars or be discovered as a country star, I think you have to move to Nashville. That's where everything is happening.
Wow.
And you've got to be there. And I think if you want to do pop, you need to go to LA. I think that if you're doing rap, you have to go to Atlanta. Otherwise, you have to become so big in your own hometown that it's undeniable. But even if you become big in your hometown, you're going to eventually have to go through those cities to really compete with the best of the best. So, every dog thinks they're a lion at home. So get to the big city where it's happening and definitely do that. Number 2 is I like songs you can hear one time and never forget. So if you're writing a song, melodies.
They have a hook. They have a hook.
Have a hook. And melodies melodies are mysterious. I can't explain how to write a melody, but try to keep it simple. And if a 5-year-old can dance around to it, no matter what the lyrics about, that's usually a good sign. So I love to say, don't bore us, get to the chorus. And number 3 would be write your truth, write your own story. If you try to chase a trend that's on the radio, by the time you get there, that trend will already be gone. Think of all the bands that tried to copy Nirvana. Maybe a couple of them popped up, but you can't even name those anymore. Just like when I came to Nashville, I at first tried to kind of, copy things, but that didn't work. I had to just tell my own story. And because there's value in your own story, and especially your youth and the way you see the world, there's value in that. And that's what will stick out when you write your own songs, as opposed to writing something that someone has already had success with. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Be yourself. Everybody else is taken, right? That's the name of
Yes,
the
exactly.
Frank says it all the time. You're the one who says, like, if you're big and local, come to LA, right? If you're going to do it, do it.
When people call me and say, "Oh, I'm a struggling artist in Tallahassee, Florida. I just graduated from Florida State, or I just graduated from Michigan State, or I just get your ass to LA, because it's just as hard to be a PA. It's easier to be a PA in production assistant in Los Angeles than it is to be in Jacksonville, Florida, or Tallahassee. So get to where the work is and get to where the action is." And that's
great advice. And the footnotes in your book, all the way along the book, is great advice for songwriters too. So anybody who's looking to break into that business, I would recommend this.
So JT,
Party Like a Rock Star.
JT, in closing, what the hell's printed on your T-shirt?
Well, I'm in Kentucky, so I don't want everyone to see it. It says "Walking with Jesus." It's Christopher Walken with Jesus.
That's great.
Come on. Listen. That's what I say to people. Perfect. That's what I say to people. Flamingos have backwards knees. God has a sense of humor. People, come on.
Great stuff.
I can't thank you enough for having me on, and thank you for being so kind to my dad. I know you spoke with him a ton when he passed on, and it's like that. That's like that drug commercial. Why do you talk about yourself so much, JT? I learned it from you, Dad. So wherever you are, Party Like a Rock Star is available. Bookstores everywhere and anywhere online. You buy books. You'll love this book. And you know what? If you know Frank, he'll sign it for you.
Thanks, JT.
Thanks, JT.
Be
nice
well.
meeting you, brother. Nice meeting you. Enjoyed it.
Great.
So kind. So kind.
Great. Be well.
Pleasure.
Hey,
what?
Go ahead.
They can edit this, right? Are we up?
Yeah.
Hey, do you want me to listen? I think I was so excited. I had 3 copies. Do you want to 3 coffees? Do you want to redo the beginning? Because Sally was texting me asking about Joe's podcast. She got it mixed up. That's why I said,
Hell no! We'll keep that in and we'll keep this in. Are you kidding me?
That's perfect.
Oh, no, don't keep this in.
Yes, we'll keep this in. Get up. Get him off the screen quick.
You guys are fantastic. Ow!
Oh,
there we go. That's 40 years. That's 40 years of my life.
Yeah, wow. You can see the energy. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. What are the similarities in his personality traits?
Well,
he's a little calmer than Jay.
wasn't Jay like refusing to be denied too? That was his thing,
Jay
right? You have to make your own.
Yeah, we all
make your own breaks.
We all refuse to be denied. Lord knows what would happen if we were, because I, for one, don't even know how I would make a living in another business. I mean, I would come up. I'm sure I would have come up with a way to make a living, but it wouldn't have been as much fun.
No way it'd be as much fun.
And I wouldn't have been charging in the fires. That's for sure.
Well, we all get fun in different ways, you know?
Yes.
But refusing to be denied, man, that's the key in this business. I mean, without a doubt, and confidence. I mean, you really got to believe in yourself, you know.
Yeah, and JT is another example. He's, I mean, Jay was big in radio, but he got his cast on Mork and Mindy by slipping he was going around slipping his photo under agents' doors. Slipping his photo under agents' doors because he wasn't smart enough to have a FedEx delivery jacket. So he would just slip under the doors, and he slipped it under the door.
His big break came again, handing out CDs,
Jay slipped his resume under
the right guy heard it.
Jay slipped his resume under the door. The secretary was a fan of his radio show. She gave it to a casting agent, and he got Mork and Mindy.
Wow.
Same thing. Anyway, enough for today.
All right. Yeah, that was a great interview, Frank. Again, nice guest. Real alive. The guy was electric. Electric.
You think? I'm glad he said he had 3 cups of coffee when he came on, because he was amped. I mean,
Yeah.
he was amped. So I loved it. I loved
That was
it.
fantastic. The most amped guest we've ever had.
Well, Joe Zwick was pretty amped.
Yes, that's true.
And Joe Zwick was 80 years old, recently. So anyway, say goodnight.
That's another one in the books.
Another one in the books.
Take care. Thanks very much for looking in. Don't forget to read Lamar's Gamble, If These Lips Could Talk, Combustible.
And we'll see you in March.
We'll see you in March, is right.
On our next episode, from Moscow to the south of France, Frank and Billy discuss places they've traveled and loved.
We'll see you next week.